If a plane is lost, how long do you think it will take to be notified? 1 week, 1 month, maybe 1 or 2 years. That plane landed exactly 37 years later. In fact, the whole story begins with the departure of Pan American 914 from New York on July 22, 1955. Flight 914 took off without any problems, but 3 hours after takeoff, there was no news from this plane that went to Florida and the 57 passengers on it. The plane that was supposed to land had not landed in Miami. The aircraft was not visible on the radars of the control tower and there was no emergency signal. Officially, the aircraft disappeared from the radars and disappeared. All the findings indicated that the aircraft was completely lost and both pilots of the aircraft could not be reached. The Atlantic Ocean began to be looked at. But despite all the efforts, no part of the plane could be reached. The plane and the passengers almost disappeared. And then it was announced that the people on the plane lost their lives, but nobody stated where the plane was because nobody could find that plane. And upon this, it was announced that the people on the plane lost their lives, but no one stated where the plane was because nobody could find that plane. Exactly 37 years after this event, on September 9, 1992, Juan de la Corte, who was working at the Venezuelan airport, saw a vanishing point while browsing the flights, and saw the flight. And Juan and his friends suddenly realized that a plane is approaching towards them, DC-4 McDonnell Douglas. So it was the Pan American 914 plane that disappeared years ago. He asked where they were. Later, when the officers said that they were approaching the Caracas airport, the pilot of the plane told who he was and where they were flying from. Then Juan de la Corte asks more questions and is shocked with the answers he receives because the pilot of the plane says that it took off on July 2, 1955. The tower is shocked at this answer. It happens, but I still try to ask these questions after landing the plane. After the plane lands, the tower asks the pilot if he knows that the date of that day is May 21, 1992, and the pilot of the plane does something even more crazy. He says he is going to leave the airport and starts his engines. And this plane, which comes all of a sudden, is preparing to take off and leaves the airport without listening to the warnings. It was published in World News, and then this story was republished in 1992 with changes and updates. After the plane appeared on the radar for a while, it could not be heard again and its mystery could not be solved. It is still thought that the story may be true, but nothing has been finalized. What is your opinion on this? Please don't forget to mention it in the comments and ask your questions first if you see a plane appearing and disappearing.